Welcome, children, welcome. Hey, Aaron, good to see you. I'm going to take these off because otherwise I hear echo in my head about 5 seconds after because of the lag inherent to the servers. So welcome, glad to see you. We finally made it happen. So yeah, I really didn't have anything specific to go over. Just kind of wanted to hang out, chill. I've got nothing put together. Yeah, it's been okay. You know the day we've had. But sorry for the mask. I didn't have time to try to get a razor through the overgrowth that is currently in my face. So we're doing the whole cheater mask tonight. But yeah, I like how this goes. I like the fact that my camera settings actually do me more favors with the new set now. Got this nice expensive camera sitting here, and honestly, Scener didn't manage to pick up like half of the frame rate. It was always kind of I can frame the office just right and all of this. I'm pretty happy about it all the way around. So we have all kinds of things planned for the upcoming shows. So the first big news I want to share, and I don't know if there's anybody else coming, so I'm just going to start and just start talking. The first big thing that we've got planned is the fact that I can, because of this now, all of the shows will actually start banking. So maybe or maybe not this one, I don't know. I'll have to decide that at some point. But starting with the next show, which is going to be August 2nd, all of my shows are going to bank. So from this time forward, instead of just everything being lost as soon as I say goodnight at the end of the stream, everything's poof gone to the ether. If you weren't there, you missed it. That's over with now. So when we do an actual episode, it'll release. And if you were there, great, you can go back and rewatch it if you want to. If you weren't there, no problem, it'll be there when you get there. You can go back and rewatch shows at any point. So it'll be nice, you know, this will be my 5th season coming up, and it'll be nice finally to have something to show for it at the end of it. I've been doing this since 2021, possibly 2020. It might have been late 2020, my first show. I always forget. This is why I have everything saved in a spreadsheet. But when Stream Lounge shut down, lost everything. The only thing I've got is I think I may have the AV I know I've got the AV from me first interviewing Shanna Stoker. I know I've got the AV from having Kelly Maroney on the show. And I know I think I've got the footage from the Screams with Pride event that we did with Lloyd Kaufman. For some reason I couldn't remember Lloyd's first name all of a sudden. With Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma. I think I've got that one too. So I have that footage, but it's just the raw footage from those episodes. I don't have anything. Of course, I don't have the movie that goes with it. It's just like the Just Joe Bob segments. So I don't have. That's all I've got, and it's only those 3 shows. So everything else that was on Stream Lounge is gone. Then Scener just never recorded it in the first place. It just doesn't. It's just not a functionality that they offer, which is fine considering how bad their functionality was all the way along. So the upshot of that is here now episodes will bank. I don't have to worry about whether or not the movie's going to go along with it, because the movies now are all public domain on this show. I may still do the occasional rare scener thing, just so I could show it something that is not in the public domain. Something comes up that we really want to cover, we could do stuff like that, and that's probably just going to be Patreon stuff. I'm only going to do that for Patreon members. And that may or may not with me on camera. Probably not, to be honest with you. And at that point, I kind of rather just do watch-alongs, like we used to, old school live tweets and stuff like this on Blue Sky, things like that. So there's that. So going on more stuff about the show. So Saturday night at the usual time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central, I will be doing Season 5, Episode 1 of the Ruby Tombsday Horror Show. That will be here on a YouTube Live, with all the new bells and whistles and things like this. And the cool thing is, it's going to be the best of both worlds. Whereas I love being able to do the live stuff on Scener and Streamlounge, where I can interact with the audience. I thought I was going to have to give that up in order to do stuff on YouTube Live. So I really thought that I was going to have to just do pre-recorded shows and just dump those out there. And if you watch them, you watch them. If you don't, you don't. And I'll just have to lose the audience aspect of it. And it turns out that no, I don't have to do that. So I can still do now, because of all the settings in OBS, I can go through, set up my stuff ahead of time, so I can do like that waiting image that you saw at the beginning of my stream, and then go into the music video, and then swap out of for my title intro, the theme song. Actually start doing the theme song like I'm supposed to be doing. Go from the theme song into my intro, do my intro and set up, then throw to the movie and cut back and things like this. So now the movies that we'll be watching will be versions of the movies that I have edited, riffs into, sometimes sound effects, sometimes little historical bits or whatever, all this cooked right into the movie. So kind of like an MST3K kind of thing. I hate using that reference back to them all the time, because there's people out there that do riffs besides just the MST3K stuff. But it'll be a lot like that in that regard. So you have stuff that's edited in. But then I can throw back to the audience and do live cam and talk with you guys in the chat, and do setup for the next segment in the movie and things like this, and go back and forth and have a great time doing all of it. So it'll be a live horror hosted show like I used to do. It will also be a far more expanded experience with the movies themselves, because I'll be adding all the extra stuff into all of that. So I think it's going to be a lot more fun. We can do all of the things we wanted to do before, just have a lot more fun doing it. It'll work a lot more dependably. Anything you do online, there's going to be hiccups. I'm aware of that. We had a couple of them getting in tonight, but it's so much easier for that to cook out. YouTube is just a hell of a lot more dependable than Scener ever was. And like I said, I told you all the background about kicking people off for Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. So we've got all this stuff cooked in now. I did extensive testing. Hell of a learning curve, not gonna lie. I'm old. I'm gonna be 52 in a couple weeks. So I've had to learn a lot. I've had to learn DaVinci Resolve video editing software version 20. I had to start learning more and more about OBS, the studio software that we use that actually allows me to interface my camera and all of my tech in with YouTube. I'm going to have to learn Linux, which I don't really mind doing, but again, I am, 52 years old, and learning an entire coding language and an operating system at my age is going to be challenging, to say the least. but it's going to be a lot more fun, not just for me. But I think we're going to be giving a lot more. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm used to having known shit, and now I'm at a point in my life now where I've got to not know shit all over again and start over kind of from scratch. The only benefit I've got there is just the fact that I have a knack for language, which helps and stuff like this. I've had a computer in my lap since let's see, I'll be 52 soon. I think I was 8 years old when we got our first home computer. And it wasn't even an IBM or a Tandy. It was a Timex. Timex made count them, one home computer. A little piece of shit. The Timex Sinclair 1000. And that was the first computer I got to actually program on. But because of that, at least, it gives me a little bit of at least understanding of what the process is like. But the reason I'm going to have to learn all this other tech, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. I'm going to be building a sound box from scratch, and largely from junk. And when I say junk, I mean bits and pieces of things I find on the sidewalk as I'm walking through the hood here. But I'm going to build a sound effects box out of like an old cigar box and springs and screws and bits and bobs and scrap metal and things like this. And that's actually, believe it or not, going to be interfacing with a Raspberry Pi. And I don't mean the dessert, I mean the little microcomputer. That'll interface with the microcomputer, that will go into a mixer, then the mixer will interface with my laptop. And all of this, what this does is it allows me to start doing things in film that are how horror movies sound the way they sound now. So think of things like the gate hinge at the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, the sound of the porch swing banging into the side of the cabin at the beginning of Evil Dead. All of those weird and creepy kind of what the hell is that kind of noises. All of that kind of stuff is going to be things I'm actually going to be able to start doing soon with the editing I'm going to be doing for the public domain movies. Because a lot of what I'll be doing will be adapted silent films. And some of this stuff, being public domain, a lot of it's just going to flat be old. And it'll need stuff. So some of it will be comedy, like adding in sound effects for the sake of humor. Some of it will be for effect. But all of it, just to make it more interesting, more engaging. I will be including links on where to find the public domain films, if you want to watch them unedited. The Internet Archive website is an absolute treasure trove. They actually are incredibly important. I would say they're as important as Bill Lustig and Joe Bob Briggs and Roger Corman as far as keeping these films alive. There's a lot of this stuff that even the Library of Congress doesn't necessarily have access to have copies of. So that's why I'm not particularly bummed by making my focus predominantly public domain movies. Yes, it is a legal and financial necessity, but honestly, these are the films that I kind of feel are the most important ones to show. Because if it isn't the horror host showing these things, these movies aren't going to get introduced to people. They're just going to sit there on a server somewhere and languish. Where horror hosts, not just me, but all of us, horror hosts are the ones that will take that, find a way to engage with an audience, and then put these films that people probably wouldn't see otherwise, or at the very least generally wouldn't go seek out on their own otherwise. And make them approachable, make them accessible to people, maybe spark the interest. And we're not going to get more horror hosts if the horror hosts aren't out here engaging people. I have it as a secret hope that, bad choice of words, that Hope's son Colin picks that up and runs with it. Because I know he was showing an interest in film history and in horror hosting and all of this. You know, he hosted 2 movies with me on the show. So I really hope that, you know, maybe what comes out of all of this is maybe he gets the bug and he becomes the next horror host down the line. Just kind of keep the art form alive, you know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did. I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I know we did another film with him, but I can't for the life of me right now remember what that one was. I'd have to pull up the records. So we're going to be doing all of that kind of stuff. We're going to be building more props. There's talk about building a house band, an actual Ruby Tombsday animated undead, well, not animated, animatronic is a better word, animatronic undead band to play music on the show. Because I think I mentioned it, but just in case I haven't, my friend Clark Johnson, who he and I go way back, we met in adulthood about 10, 15 years ago, something like this. About 15 years, I think. But it turns out that we were like in school together for most of our childhoods. He was like 2 grades behind me, and we just never met. But he followed me to the same schools and things like this. So, you know, we go way back. He is an exceedingly gifted electronics engineer. That is how he makes his living. And he's using my show largely as an excuse to make cool things and, you know, practice his hobby on fun stuff rather than just the stuff he has to do for work every day. So he's helping me design the sound effects box. He's going to help me build basically a custom stream box rather than paying $200 or $300 for one of the ones you find online, making a custom Ruby Tombsday one from the ground up for the show. We're going to be working together on trying to build a house band. And we're building the house band because I want to do a talk show. More or less satirically. You know, think of the Tombsday Toy Shoppe version of Between Two Ferns, you know, the Dick Cavett kind of situation. So we've been talking about doing that for a while now, doing like a variety show / talk show kind of a situation. And that would be building a whole other set downstairs in our exceedingly creepy basement that we have here at the house. So there'll be a lot of opportunity to do cool stuff with that. So all of that said, I just really think that finally I'm at a point now where I can start giving you guys the kind of show that I've really been wanting to give you guys from the get-go. So I'm really looking forward to bringing you guys all of that. So all of that said, I've said all of that said like 5 times, and I haven't shut up yet. But the first show is going to be Saturday, August 2nd, and that show is finally going to be the 1910 Thomas Edison kinetoscope version of Frankenstein. Now, I know for the paid members on Patreon, I put that up several months ago. Just a real rough early version of the film. Really, really rough. So you may or may not have had the opportunity to see early cuts of what I was doing. But I finally finished all of that yesterday. We have gone back and added subtitles in, so it's and burned them directly into the video, so it's going to be accessible for everybody without having to worry about YouTube correctly interpreting what I'm saying or what's being said in these incredibly old films. That can be a problem. You know, some of the prints are not going to be the best. I mean, one of this film that we're doing for episode 1 is going to be from 1910, and it is not the earliest horror film that's out there. The earliest one that I've found is, I'm not going to try the French because I'm going to slaughter it, but basically it's called The Haunted Castle. And that is a short film. When I say short, I mean 3 minutes long. That is a short film from 1897, which I'm really excited about. All of the existing prints are pretty terrible. But, 1897. The fact that this film exists, even in terrible condition, is amazing. There's a couple of them from 1897, and there's one from 1903, 1910 for Frankenstein, and then in 1922 we get the Murnau version of Nosferatu in 1922. I think it was June of 1922. And then in September of 1922, we get what I think is an even more important movie that never gets talked about enough. It's called Haxan. And I'm looking forward to that one. I'm just going to be starting that one this coming week, so it's going to be a while before that one comes out. I'm going to try to have it ready to go before the 2nd, so we can get episode 1 out and then basically have episode 2 more or less in the can. Because these take longer to do, I'm probably going to be doing like 2 shows a month. Just because there's so much more to do now, because I can do more. So it's going to take a little longer to get shows ready, whereas before basically it was like research the film a little bit, make my promo stuff, post my promo stuff, we're ready until it's time to go to air. That is no longer my situation. Now it's a matter of a whole lot of setup I've got to do in OBS. I've got to go through, edit the films, add the subtitles, add the effects, add the riffs, all this kind of stuff. I'll end up watching everything like 2 and 3 times. But you guys are going to have so much more fun with what I do now. So much more fun. The other thing this will allow me to do too is this gives me the opportunity to bring in guests, which is something I've not really had much opportunity to do. I've gotten lucky a few times. I mean, like we said, we had Kelly Maroney, we've had Lloyd Kaufman, we've had Shanna Stoker. We've had, of course, guest co-hosts before. Jeff's been on the show more than anybody. Narcotic Casserole, John Reed Adams. He's right behind Jeff on the number of shows that he's hosted with me. But this will be a thing now where I'm hoping at least by the second season, we're currently going to be starting the 5th season. I'm hoping by like the 6th, to start bringing in some of the filmmakers that I've gotten to know through the community. So maybe we could do stuff with Brandon Reines, or maybe we could do stuff with, of course I'm blanking on all of my names now, and that's horribly embarrassing. Brandon Paris. I'd love to get in touch with them. I know that Kelly Maroney previously had shown interest in coming back on and doing more, and I think this is going to be a lot easier for her to do now, so because of that, maybe we can get her to come back and do something. I'm starting to get connections with people now because of being part of the creator team with Found TV. And basically I can show we'll have to see what I can show that I can get away with when I have the creators from the film that hold the copyrights there on the show with me. The issue is that YouTube, when you go to upload videos, they automatically scan what you're sending in for copyrighted material. If they find music they recognize or a piece of dialogue they recognize, things like that, they can pick it up and flag it. So we've got to see how we're going to work that kind of thing out. But if nothing else, again, it'll open an opportunity to just sit down and just do interviews and hangout sessions and Q&As and things like that with the creators. That's all stuff that we have options to do now too. Now on writing, the Tombsday Times stuff. Remember that? That monthly newsletter I was going to be writing? That I've got 2 out of over the last year? Depression's a thing. Mental health is often not a thing around the house. So it's been difficult. The good news on that, however, is I'm still very proud of the pieces that are released, one on Ray Harryhausen, the other one on Redcaps. Still very happy with those pieces. And they'll help me kind of figure out a style and figure out like my methodology for writing things like this. And what's really cool about that is that led to Hope, the second time she's come up tonight, reaching out to me and asking me to write for her horror magazine that's going to be launching here soon. So I have now officially written and successfully submitted my first horror article that isn't going to be self-published. So I'm ridiculously proud of this news, insanely so. And being proud of something that does not come naturally to me whatsoever. But yeah, so I have written an article now that I submitted to her on the ghosts of, thank you, on the ghosts of the Alamo in my hometown. It's called Ghosts of Alamo City. And we do a deep dive into kind of what the history of the Alamo was that kind of led to the battle, kind of led to the hauntings, showing kind of the behind the scenes that the Hollywood movies don't talk about in terms of the Alamo. The fact that we make the Texans out to be these grand heroes and these patriots and these savior figures, when really largely what Texas was fighting for was the opportunity to remain a slave owning culture. The land was still held by Mexico at the time. Mexico had abolished slavery by this point, like 10 years before the Battle of the Alamo, and Texas just failed to listen, failed to pay attention to the fact that was, A, not only now illegal where they were living, but B, was explicitly one of the concessions that Mexico demanded they make in order to become settlers on Mexican land. So when you came to Texiana, as it was normally called at the time, when you came to the Tejas region, you agreed to A, become Catholic, B, uphold the laws of Mexico, and there were a couple other things in there too, but upholding the laws of Mexico meant it was now illegal to own slaves, so slavery itself was not legal at all in Mexico at the time. And of course, the largely white settlers didn't want to give up that way of life and decided they were willing to die for it at this little fort in San Antonio. So we talk about that. I talk about the tensions that created. We talk about the fact that there were people with their hearts in the right place on both sides of the fight, and what happened to them because of it, kind of the cultural history of it all, and things like this. And then I close with one of the experiences that I had with Ghosts at the Alamo. So I'm really proud of how that article turned out. The magazine is called Current Ink. I'll type in the link here. The website is up right now, but it's not fleshed out yet because it's not fully launched. I know that the original, last I heard for the launch date was going to be August 1st, which would be kind of cool if it did launch on August 1st because that's my birthday. But she may have to push it back because right now this is an all hope operation. She's the one running the whole shebang until she can get it going somewhere in funding and things like this. So it's a one-woman show currently. But when it launches, I will be posting that to the Patreon, so you guys will be the first ones to know, so you can go check it out. It'll be all over my socials, etc. too. But what I might do is post it for members of the Patreon a couple days in advance when I know, like, hey, it's going to release on, let's say it's the first release on the first. I'll let you guys know a couple days early, and then like the day after it launches, I will post to all of my socials and say, hey, go check this out. But because of that, I've already got several articles in my head now for here's what the next thing I can do, the next thing I can do, next thing I can do. I thought it was a challenging but maybe realistic goal that I set for myself at the beginning of the year. I said, okay, I'm going to make sure that I submit my first thing for publishing to a magazine by the end of the year. That was my goal. By New Year's Eve 2025, have submitted something to a magazine, whether it was published or not, or ever responded to, went in the round file, whatever. But just get something written and get something submitted by the end of the year. And I managed to get that done in July. So I'm like 6 months ahead of schedule right now. I think that's pretty cool. I'm so far behind on just about everything all the time that I'm pretty stoked when I can get something out ahead of schedule. Because of that now, that article is actually going to be much broader in scope. I ended up focusing it strictly to Alamo for the nature of that article, just get flowed best. But now I've already got all this other information banked. So I've already got at least 2 more articles that I want to write. And the good news is those are probably going to be Tombsday Times articles. It's kind of a catch-22 situation because I want to have stuff that's exclusive to my Patreon following. Especially my $10 a month members. What I want to do is get early access to them for the Tombsday Times issues. Then release to the paid members after that, and then like 2 months after that initial not 2 months, 2 weeks or so after that initial release date, then I'll just release it to the public. That way I will always have public facing writing samples that I can point to when I do go to start submitting to Rue Morgue or Scary Monsters or Fangoria or any of these others. So the catch being that if I submit something to a magazine, it needs to be something that hasn't been published elsewhere. So I've got to write like maybe 2 for Patreon, 1 for magazine submission, or something like that. I haven't figured out that math yet. But you guys are going to be getting more than I'm posting to other stuff. But it is time for me to start reaching out to magazines and things like this to start trying to get actual paid bylines out there. But because of that, now that I've actually gotten something out there and approved for a magazine, you get that first one under your belt, it gets a lot easier to get the imposter syndrome in your head to shut up a bit. So it's making it easier for me to get kind of out of my own way in terms of getting writing done. So I'm going to be in my office a lot more now. I'm finding that I can sit here in my office more lately than I've been able to do in months and months and months. And I think now it's just because things have finally clicked into a point where I feel like I'm producing something and getting something back out of it. Which I realize is kind of a cold thing to say when, I've had Patreon supporters like yourself all these months who have been there taking care of me even through my driest of spells. But when you keep doing stuff out there and it just disappears and it's gone, when you're unable to build a library of work, no matter how hard you work, it gets to be really, really hard to keep going. But now that, like I said, I'll have shows to show for my work. That was awkward wording. I'm a writer, folks. But now that I'll actually be able to point and say, hey, look, I've got these episodes up online. I'll be able to put those episode numbers in every one of my shows, so it shows that even though I can't point to the previous 4 seasons of work because of switching venues, having venues drop out from under me, at least now I can point to that and go, hey, look, I've been doing this since, yada, yada, yada. Here's some of my work if you're interested to go check this out. And if the need arises now, and I don't want to talk about this too much because I don't want to think about this too much, but if the need arises now when we just need to pack up our books and run for Canada, which is a real possibility the way things are going, I've got enough under me now that grabbing my laptop, a couple pieces of equipment into a backpack and leaving, I can pick up and keep doing what I've been doing. So this gives me some comfort in knowing that I've got something I can keep doing. I've got something that I can count on being able to produce when I land wherever I land. And stability is not something that comes easy right now. So being able to have some kind of a touchstone is that, okay, I'll still be able to do whatever, fill in the blank. That's a big help. It's a big help. And the other big thing, and then I will shut up and we can talk about whatever. Probably starting in August, actually, hopefully. I'm going to be doing the other love that I haven't talked about much on the show, just because it was relatively off topic, irrelevant was the word I was looking for, to what I do with the Tombsday Toy Shop. But even though I don't talk about it a lot, I was a tabletop game designer for a while. I worked with a small company that used to be called Pinche Games, and then eventually changed the name to Balero Games. Small little literal mom and pop company in San Antonio, Texas. I ran a league for a game called Ket, K-H-E-T, Ket the Laser Game, which is a board game with an Egyptian theme, and basically you're using mirrored pieces on a board, kind of like chess, to bounce a laser beam across a board and hit your opponent's target. Absolute blast. Dearly, dearly love the game. May it rest in peace, because the company no longer exists. But I ran a league for so I was doing a lot of gaming conventions, and then we would just do open game nights at game shops and things like this. We'd show up and just bring boards and play games, and then teach people to play as they came by. And because of my work with various conventions, I met Vince Guzman, who's the president of, at that time, again, Pinche Games became Balero Games. He was also a chairperson for ChimeraCon, which was a big gaming convention in San Antonio. So we met at a couple of the conventions, and I sat down, played a couple of his games. He played one of the ones I was running, and just got kind of know each other tangentially like that. And then says, "Hey, you should go do this gaming convention. We'll get you set up." Okay, great. I bring my people. We run events. It's great. And then he just kind of out of the blue walks up and says, "Hey, so do you want to do a podcast?" Sure. He says, "Yeah, I want to do this podcast called Geek Out SA. And wanted you to be one of the people on it." Me and of course Vince and our friend Kayla. I can't remember Kayla's name now. She got married, and I don't remember Micah's last name all of a sudden. But anyway, basically the three of us in the beginning, and then we went through a slew of producers. Oh my God! I was a co-host and the sound engineer both for the show, so I ran all of our sound. The sound almost always worked when we get Kayla to stay on the mic. And we had a lot of fun doing it. So we'd interview different geeky people around San Antonio, and we'd talk about movie trends and game trends and tech and all these different kinds of things, kind of whatever interested us. And then after doing that for a little while, Vince says, "Hey, why don't you join us at Pinche Games and start making tabletop games with us?" So I did. And learned a lot. I learned, among other things, the fact that I want to make very, very different games than they make. Their games, there's not a damn thing wrong with them. They're fun games. Absolutely, they're fun games. And the cool thing about it is that just about everything they made, you could sit down and 5 minutes later you're playing the game and off you go. So they're great, quick games, pickup games, Hangout games, that kind of thing. And I like that. I like those games. The one in particular they did called Apt was a whole lot of fun. The games I want to make were always a bit different, though. And I ended up entering a couple game making competitions called Bookbox Games. Do I have my... I do. Cool. So I can even show you. So Bookbox Games. It's kind of an on-the-nose name because it's exactly what it sounds like. This guy named Brian that we knew would run these tournaments at gaming conventions. And basically he would give you these wooden boxes that look like books. I've got one of mine here. Wait for the camera to come up. Just so I can see if I'm in frame or not. There it goes. And he would print out of print pulp book covers. You just print them out on his printer, glue them in the front of these boxes that look like books, and happen to be boxes like this. You know, it slides open on the sides. Really cool concept, right? And then he would give you the box and with the book cover on the front, and you could go over to this big table that he had with all different, like, you know, dice and token pieces and, you know, little pente beads and little gewgaws of all varieties. And he says, you know, fill up anything that'll fit in the box and make a board game out of it, and then present your board game for play at the end of the convention. So, okay, that sounds like a whole lot of fun. And you can see here, you know, some of all the pieces that are in there. And there's a, you know, little puzzle-shaped game board I made in there for it. It snaps together. And basically the whole concept is that in this particular game, you're, yeah, right? I think it's such a great idea. And the book I got was, as you can see there, a book called The Emperor's Snuff Box. These are out-of-print, obscure novels, so you have no idea what they're about, which is kind of a help. You just base everything based on whatever that title is in your cover art. And the concept of my game is like the old 1920s style archaeological explorer kind of stuff, like The Mummy and things like this. And the whole thing is, you've heard this legend about the Emperor's Snuff Box, where, you know, if you can survive this maze full of traps and actually get a hold of this little box at the center of the maze and successfully grab it and then defeat your enemies, you are granted one wish. No matter what it is, you're granted that one wish. So everybody wants this thing, and of course it's incredibly deadly, incredibly dangerous. And the cool thing about this is that you saw the board was made out of puzzle pieces. The board is set up that you have to rotate the two halves of the game board in succession to successfully line up the symbols in the center of the board to cause the snuff box to appear. And that's the whole gimmick, mechanic around the whole thing. And it's still very fast paced, but well, I think it's a cool theme. It's still got a cool theme to it. It's quick, it's easy to pick up, but it's still cutthroat enough that it keeps the action going. It's not nearly as cut and dry as it seems to be on the face. So I made that game. I entered, and out of the, I think, 50 submissions for that particular convention, I came out, I think I was number 3. I was 2 or I was 3. I know I didn't win, but I was second or third place. I got a gift card or something like this out of that. I don't remember what. But the cool thing is, as you can see, I still have my copy of the Emperor's Snuff Box. So I'm real stoked about that. Somewhere around here, I think I've got another one that was a sci-fi setup, and it was something like Galaxy of Stars or something nondescript and pulpy like that. But one of the games that I didn't get to finish, but I got the box for at some point, was called Uncle Dynamite. And I know nothing about what the actual novel Uncle Dynamite was about. But the image I got of it was movies like Black Canary, not Black Canary, what was it called? Cat and the Canary. An old film with Bob Hope, and it's kind of a mystery whodunit. You know, gather all the dead relatives in this mansion in the swamp to read the eccentric uncle's will, etc., and everyone's fighting to get a hold of the portion at the end of that whole thing. So I decided that that was going to be the theme for Uncle Dynamite. The Uncle Dynamite just passed, and the family's gathering together, and you've got to, everyone's trying to get a hold of the fortune. But with the extra twist of Uncle Dynamite is called Uncle Dynamite because he was a mad scientist / wacky inventor. So you've got the house itself trying to kill you. Hey, TYTD, good to see you. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Doing all right. Doing everything we can. Thank you for showing up in the new environment. Appreciate that. So yeah, I'm just talking about my game design days. So like I don't know if you've ever played Flux, but the game is a lot like Flux in as much as or Chrononauts, where basically all of the players have goals they're trying to accomplish, but those goals automatically, if you're succeeding towards your goal, you're automatically screwing up success for other goals out there, and everything's at odds. That kind of a scenario. That's what we want to do with Uncle Dynamite. And I put a ridiculous amount of development into this game. So there's no way in hell it was going to be successful for a book box tournament, just because you have to have things done in like 2 to 3 days. You have like 48 to 72 hours to get things done. Thank you. I'm really happy. And this is actually going to be my small set. There's going to be another one coming in a few months. But I'm excited with it. I'm excited about finally doing things with YouTube. I was telling Aaron earlier, it's going to be a lot easier to do bigger and better and more fun and creative stuff over here than it was. Stream Lounge was fantastic, and I miss Stream Lounge with every bit of my being. But YouTube is going to be a lot more. There's a lot more I can do over here with it. Cena was just garbage. Cena was really garbage. I fought for it, but I wasn't having fun. My audience wasn't having fun. That just takes everything out. But I haven't announced it anywhere else yet, but except here. So since you just got here, I'll mention it too. Season 5, Episode 1 of the Ruby Tombsday Horror Show is going to be on August 2nd at 10 p.m. Eastern. So that'll drop in now that we're on YouTube. If you don't catch the show live, you'll be able to go back and watch it whenever on demand afterwards. But the first movie work that I'm going to be doing on the new season is going to be the 1910 Frankenstein, the Thomas Edison kinetograph version of Frankenstein. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's going to have all the riffs and sound effects and gags and all that kind of stuff built into it. So if you get an opportunity to check that out, please do. How about you two, Eddie? How you been doing? I know it's been ages since we've talked. I'm terrible about showing up for Discord. I'm terrible, but I got to get better about it. I haven't been in my own server in probably a year and a half. So anyway, the reason I bring all the game development stuff up is that starting sometime next month, we're going to be taking the original Uncle Dynamite concept that we had, kind of scrapping the backstory to, basically distance it from whatever the original book, that the character name was from. You drop all that because we don't want to use somebody else's IP, but take all the development stuff that we did for the game itself, and then take the concepts that we built, like for game mechanics and things like this, and actually make a Tombsday Toy Shoppe tabletop board game. So it's not going to be an RPG, but it's going to be something along the lines of, imagine Clue or Cluedo gone horribly wrong and all taking place in the toy shop of an insane undead toy maker. Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you, man. There's so much more we'll be able to do. We'll be the best of both worlds. So it'll be a live show like you're seeing now. So we'll have the chat going. We'll have the live stuff that I'll be doing during interstitials and things like that. But then the movie itself we'll be cutting in and out of, and that'll have all the cool stuff built into the footage of the movie itself. So I'll be able to do all the cool pre-recorded stuff I've been wanting to do, and at the same time, we'll still be able to keep the whole live gag, live format that we've always used for my show. Awesome! Congrats on all of that, book in particular. It's funny you mentioned writing, because I just got my first magazine submission accepted a couple weeks ago. So it'll be my first piece that won't be self-published. Self-published is valid, don't get me wrong. This is not me talking smack at all, but it's just nice to see my byline appearing somewhere that I don't own. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I really should be writing my Halloween stuff ahead of time. And now, now that I get to do the public domain stuff and I don't have to worry about what's just on streaming services at any given point, that does free me up in a lot of ways. I can actually start writing my Halloween stuff, picking my Halloween episodes out now. Ooh, I'm glad you said that. Thank you very much for putting that in my brain. It's empty up here, I need all the help filling it I can get. The piece I just submitted is on hauntings of the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. So it's ghosts related to the battle and kind of how the history of the city affected the hauntings themselves. So some of them are legendary hauntings that people have been reporting for a couple hundred years, and the piece kind of ends up wrapping around to a ghost experience that I myself had at the Alamo. And that's going to be on Hope's new magazine, Current Ink, online mag. And yes, I'm spamming that link again, but I'm excited. So her magazine is actually going to be launching in August, probably August 1st. That's her goal, but it may be end up being August 15th, something like that. And then it's going to be quarterly for a while, eventually going monthly down the line. And she's going to do horror and spooky prose, along with you can write short stories, poetry, even submit artwork, all of this kind of stuff. So it's going to be a real, in a lot of ways, what feels to me like a very cool old fanzine kind of a feel, but being, having all the benefits that go with being on an online publication. So I'm really looking forward to what she's doing. I'm really excited about it. So I met my goal, got my first submission out to a magazine this year. I was hoping to maybe hit that in time by the end of the year. I got it done in July. And now that going to have an actual byline out there, I feel better trying to start submitting stuff, just blind submitting to Rumor or Scary Monsters or Fango or wherever. So looking forward to doing all that. I know I'm also, since that was the other thing I want to mention to you, Aaron. I'm going to start finally getting reviews done. I'm finally starting to try to bank all my stuff on Letterboxd, things like that. Of course, I'm with the creator team for FoundTV.com. So I'm going to start trying to get at least 1 or 2 reviews out per month. Awesome. Well, thank you so much on that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I pushed against going to YouTube for a long while just because of thinking that I needed to hang my shingle out specifically for stuff that was available on streaming, from streaming services. And for Stream Lounge and for Scene or both, I was limited on what I could show by what was available on those streaming services that they work with. The one thing that is going to be freeing, oddly enough, by going to YouTube, where YouTube has its pitfalls, I understand that. But the one thing that I'm really finding a lot of freedom in is just that there's so much public domain stuff that I'd never be able to talk about otherwise, because a lot of this stuff isn't on YouTube yet, except for people doing snippets of it for reviews. Now I can actually go through and properly horror host things like the 1910 Frankenstein. We're doing Haxan for episode 2. I'm probably going to do an episode, maybe I'll save that for October. But I'm thinking do an episode of a lot of the early 19th century kinetoscope stuff for things like Haunted Castle and the Wicked Cauldron and things like this. All these little 2 and 3 and 4 minute horror pieces. And maybe just do one night where I blow through 3 or 4 of those. It's actually going to do a lot more of the stuff that I've always wanted to do that I haven't been able to do because of the way Scener and Stream Lounge were set up. Now I can go, oddly enough, I can go do those on YouTube with relative impunity. But yeah. So like I said, if you have ideas, you have things that you want to see, please always feel free to drop them. I'm not hard to find. I'm at Ruby Tombsday basically everywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I still refuse to call it anything else. I'm on Blue Sky, technically. But oddly enough, I find Blue Sky even harder on my mental health to hang out in than Twitter. Because I can find what I'm looking for in Twitter. Whereas on Blue Sky, the problem I have is I just get flooded with what they suggest. Like, here's people you'd be interested in, just because. But all they do is, I'm a horror creator, but all I'm going to do with my horror creation is complain about something that Trump did today. And while complaining about what Trump did in any given day is absolutely fucking valid, and we all need to vent, I need a space where I'm not seeing nothing but that 24/7. It makes it really hard for me to hang on Blue Sky. So basically, I go over to Blue Sky to post promo stuff, and then occasionally I'll do a live tweet because someone's asked me to host something over there. And aside from that, I talk to Aaron, and that is the full scope of me hanging out on Blue Sky most of the time. Whereas I've managed to eliminate most everybody that I don't want to see. It's weirdly in its own way a lot less toxic. So I'm still over there more than anything else. I have a Slasher account. I never use it. Which is sad. They've developed a nice little platform over there, but it's just, This is 52-year-old me screaming at clouds, I think is what it boils down to. So I'll be doing a lot more stuff here. I'll be doing stuff again on TikTok finally. I may be doing lives on both. We'll see. But the focus of most everything is going to be here, and of course my Patreon page. So maybe get back. I'm thinking about going back to Discord. I never really had anything against Discord. It's just when Stream Lounge went away, I didn't really feel any need to be over there much. I know for a while there, a lot of my favorite servers on Discord kind of went dark. Just most everybody that I was following over there kind of went off and away and doing other things, and I just kind of fell off. But I'm trying to get back on all that stuff now. All right, folks. So this was a pretty successful test. We are an hour in, and everything is still working. So I'm pretty stoked with that. I think I'm going to go ahead and release everybody back into the wild. Aaron, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on in your world over there, so thank you for being here. I hope that I at least kept you entertained for a while tonight. Reach out anytime, as always. Any of y'all, if you want to hear anything, see anything, talk about anything, let me know. And if you want to do it here in a Hangout, absolutely. If you want to reach out one-on-one, we can reach out one-on-one. I'm always willing to be a set of ears. They're still here. I got them attached. They're great. They work. The stuff in between isn't great, but the ears, they're A1. All right, folks. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So until next time, folks, I'll see you next Tombsday. Good night, everybody. Have a good night.
Ruby Tombsday. Tombsday Toy Shop production.